Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1756A, and today's date is January 3rd, 2018, and the title of the episode is, Do You See What Is Happening? If not, you need to get prepared. Now, before we get started, have you seen what the stocks have done over the holidays? They've tanked. If you had a fund of 100,000 in the S&P 500 at the end of September, you'd only have 79,350 left now. Had you put your money into gold, your 100,000 would be worth 108,325 over the same period. Whenever stocks are falling, precious metals, especially gold, start to rise. Take a look at these charts. Look at stocks with the S&P 500, look at gold, and you can see the difference. Need I say more? You know what to do. Call Noble Gold Investments at 877-646-5347 or click the link below to receive the free gold and silver investment guide. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, for a very long time, we've been talking about how the central banks, the deep state, how they've been pumping up this entire economy. What they did was they created this illusion, and they did this right after the financial crisis of 2008. This is why the Fed went crazy. They printed a lot of money, transferred a lot of their currency overseas to many different banks, propped up the banking system, and they did a lot of underhanded things. And they're pretending like they've done nothing wrong. And what they did was they created a gigantic illusionary economy. How did they do this? They needed to control the stock market, precious metals, real estate, and they needed the government to work with them and manipulate all the statistical numbers. So during this period, what they did was they changed calculations. They manipulated the numbers. Unemployment, those people that are no longer looking for a job, and what that really means is they haven't gone on an interview in 4 weeks, we just won't count them. GDP numbers, well, let's go back to 1929, recalculate it, and put research and development into it, recalculate it all the way up to the present day, and that will be the new GDP numbers. And they did this with many different things. They just kept adjusting everything. Why? Because they knew the time was going to come when they were going to have to switch out of the system because it was going to collapse. Now, remember, the central bank, they never want it to look like it is their fault, because how do you start a new system if everyone is blaming them? It's completely impossible. So they always had to make it look like they were doing a fantastic job, and these are the other reasons why the economy failed. And once the economy started to collapse, they were going to blame this on, of course, a war. This would cover up pretty much everything. Think about what a war does. It makes everyone sacrifice. It explains away why you can't get materials on the store shelves. It explains a lot. Everything has changed since Trump came into office. We are now witnessing the destruction of the central bank system. This is what it looks like without an event. What you're experiencing right now with the stock market, with the mainstream media, with everything else, is what happens when their system starts to implode on itself. Now, of course, they're trying to point the finger still at Trump with his tariffs and everything else, but that's not the reason. This is why we've been following the economy for such a long time. It wasn't to predict when it was going to happen, when the collapse was going to happen. We weren't there to say, oh, look, it's going to happen on this day, the stock market's going to come down. This was about gathering all the information over a long period of time to show exactly what they have done in the past. So when we're here today, it's not a surprise. We know exactly what they've done. Think about this for a second. We talked about auto sales, and we went back many, many years on this, where we talked about channel stuffing, where the automobile dealers, they would take their cars and they would channel stuff lots. They would count that as a sale. So everyone thought automobile sales were doing fantastically. And then they would give incentives to try to move the cars off the lot. It also made manufacturing look fantastic. Well, those days are over. And what do the automobile industry, what do they have to do to cover up their declining sales? Well, they have to make an excuse and tell you, well, we're not going to be reporting monthly sales anymore. Guess who started this? GM. Guess who's doing it now? Ford. Ford says they will no longer put out monthly sales anymore. Now, remember, Ford reported its sales for December and they were down 9%. And if we look at Ford's fleet sales and car sales, they both cratered, falling well into the double digits, or negative 19.5% and negative 27.8%. SUV sales, they're down negative 4%. Truck, down negative 3.8%. And it goes on and on and on. So they decided, just like GM, we're no longer going to report on monthly sales. They know exactly what is happening. We see the labor market. It is just trying to stay afloat here. We're seeing layoffs all over the place. I know the unemployment number is at 3.8%, 3.7%, 3. Whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. It's a made-up number. We've been following that for many, many years. We've explained away on how the government continually manipulates the numbers. Now remember, Trump is using all of these weapons to his advantage because he knows the economy was never going to last. So he made it look like the economy's doing fantastically. This way, it keeps the mainstream media and the rest away from him, because what are they going to do? They're going to say, hey, look, you manipulated everything. All he has to do is point the finger at Obama, Bush, Clinton, and the rest and say they've been manipulating for this entire time then because I'm following their calculations. Now, we've been following Challenger Gray and Christmas, and we see something completely different. Now, Challenger's job report found that 7 of 28 industries tracked by Challenger had 3,000 or more layoffs in December, the most since April 2015. The December 2018 layoff total was about 43,884, was nearly 29% higher than last year and the highest since 2015. Additionally, in 2018, 538,000 jobs were cut, 28.6% higher than the 418,000 announced in 2017. This is the highest annual total since 598,000 cuts were recorded in 2015, and the second highest total since 2011, which was around 606,000. Even more troubling is that the number of layoffs in the construction industry jumped by 8,822. And this was not only more than all 15 prior months combined, but it was the most since October 2006, when Challenger started tracking the industry. Now, what's very interesting is the mainstream media would like us to believe that Trump's tariffs, they're hurting the job industry. But Challenger only tracked around 798 jobs that were cut specifically due to tariffs. What does that tell you? The tariffs really have no effect on what is happening here. The tariffs were put into place for something completely different, which we're going to go into. What is happening here is we're watching the total destruction of the central bank system. Do you see what is happening here? You're witnessing the entire implosion of a central bank system in real time, and there's nothing the central bank can do right now. They were hoping they were going to have a completely different plan. But now, it's out in the open. Do you think Trump and the Patriots wanted it this way? Do you think they wanted all of this to be seen out in the open so we can point the finger at who is responsible for this? Why do you think Trump has been contradicting the Fed? Why do you think he continually says, listen, I made the economy great. Look at unemployment. Look at GDP. Look at the stock market. Every time the Fed raises the rates, what happens? Everything starts to fall apart. Look at manufacturing right now. We've been reporting how manufacturing has been declining for a very long time. Yes, Trump is trying to bring back the jobs. He's only had 2 years to do this. Can he do this within a 2-year span? No. But he can give companies reassurances that things are going to change once we go through a transition. And this is exactly what is going to happen. But we're seeing manufacturing, this is declining. I mean, look at Apple, for instance. Apple shares, they plunged by 37% in 3 months. We see China, their economy is deteriorating. Everything is going to fall apart all at once. Why? Because global growth is slowing. Who's responsible for that? The central bank. How did they make this possible? Because of the debt load. As you continually add more and more debt, guess what? It slows growth. There's no way around this. So again, we're watching this happen in real time. Now, Kevin Hassett, this is the White House Council of Economic Advisors, says Apple's not going to be the only company. You're going to see many more companies announcing lower than expected earnings. Remember, these companies, these are also built on an illusion. They've been buying back their stocks. They've been manipulating their books, making it look a lot better than it really is, using that cheap money from the Fed. And guess what? Everything is falling apart on them. Trump was out there today, and he tweeted out the following. The United States Treasury has taken in many billions of dollars from the tariffs we are charging China and other countries that have not treated us fairly. In the meantime, we are doing well in various trade negotiations currently going on. At some point, this had to be done. Yes, the tariffs were put into place for certain reasons. One, to bring in money to keep the economy operational. Two, to even the playing field throughout the world, and especially with China, because you have to remember how this whole thing was created. We were in a globalist system, so everything had to be reversed. The other reason was to scare stores, companies into buying as much as they possibly can before everything collapses. We talked about this, where these retailers and companies, they believe the tariffs are going to hit and it's going to be a complete and utter disaster in 2019. And they've been purchasing and stocking up the warehouses like crazy. How else do you make the country prep for the collapse of the central bank? Well, you can do it in many different ways. Trump decided, you know what? I can use tariffs. And the money that is coming in through the tariffs has surged in recent months. So in other words, if Congress were to simply monetize the tariffs revenues, this could pay for the wall, if you really think about it. Now, the Federal Reserve, they understand. Now, remember, there's bad guys, there are good guys within the Federal Reserve. I believe Powell is working with Trump, and this is why he's continually raising the rates. I know he put out there that, instead of 3 times, we're going to maybe do it 2 times in 2019. The rest of the Fed heads, they're really worried because they're part of the old system where they like what they're doing. They like the central bank system. A lot of companies like this. A lot of people like this. The deep state likes this. So we have Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan. He sent a new message. He believes the Fed should hold off on its next interest rate hike until the second half of 2019. Now, does this mean Powell's going to listen to him? Or is he going to do what Trump wants? Where I think Trump does want the interest rates moving up. Remember, Q has already let us know. They already know the plan of the central bank. I do believe that this is their plan. And I believe that they're trying to bring down the central bank system, because how do you transition into something completely different? You destroy the old and bring in the new. It's almost like having a company go bankrupt. Bankruptcy means you just destroyed the company, and now you're going to reorganize it. You're going to try to bring in a new system to try to make it operational once again. Now, what's happening here is the financial pundits and the mainstream media and the rest, they're trying to continually warn Trump that, first of all, he better not get rid of Powell. Second, he better not interrupt what the Fed is doing because they're supposed to be independent. And we have some quotes here where certain individuals are out there saying that the Fed needs to be independent. Now, this is from Mark Zandi. If investors don't believe the Fed is independent, they're going to bail. An independent central bank is key to a well-functioning financial system and economy. No, it's not. The Fed is independent because it's a private corporation working for the best interests of the shareholders, not the people of the United States. And they're out there continually warning Trump, do not interfere. You think they're panicking right now? Absolutely. So what does this all mean? This means we're watching the transition happen right in front of us. We knew this day was going to come. This is just the beginning stages. As the Fed continually raise rates, it's going to destroy the economy. Actually, I think we're at the point where I don't think they really have to do that much more. I think the economy was built on such a gigantic lie that the whole thing is just falling apart by itself. Yes, the market is down today. Does that mean it's going to be down tomorrow? No. Trump has the magic wand. He can keep that part of the system going where people believe that the stock market has anything to do with the economy. But in the background, the economy is going to be falling apart. Look at the housing, look at automobiles, look at everything else. Look at the layoffs from Challenger Gray. This is completely different than what the government is reporting. It always has been. So we're watching this real time, and this is the point where you say to yourself, well, am I prepared enough? Should I get prepared? What should I do? Well, if we enter a situation where everything collapses, and let's say, God forbid, you lose your job, what would you need to stay afloat for a certain period of time before everything is rebooted? If you're able to keep your job, what would you need to stay afloat if the shelves of the stores go bare? If credit freezes up? If the dollar hyperinflates? These are the things you need to think about. And when I think about it, I say, I need water, I need food, I need supplies, I need to protect my wealth, not with paper dollars, but with gold, silver. I even have cryptocurrencies just to protect what I have. I will have paper dollars, of course, because once the system, completely implodes on itself, people only know paper dollars. And even though it's hyperinflating, you're still going to use the paper dollars first. Then you'll go into bartering and you'll hold your gold and silver until the very end, or as long as you possibly can, to ensure your wealth. Because when everything is readjusted, well, your wealth will be insured by precious metals, cryptos, and things like that. So you need to be prepared. You need to be ready. You need to think what you need, because what we're watching is the total destruction of the central banking system right in front of our eyes. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.